In August of 2023, I will have completed 10 years in social services. I was today years old, or yesterday years old, when I found out that 80.7% of social workers in the United States of America are white women. 80%. DSM-5, licensed, diagnosing. I was yesterday years old when I found out that 12% are Latino females and 21.5% of social workers are Black females. It said social workers. It didn't say if they were licensed or not. I got on here 2 years ago saying entry level social workers are so important, and they are. I was an entry level frontline staff for many, many years. But last year, I completed my MBA, and that's when I understood the power of higher level master's education, especially when it's from a quality school. I went to a very good school. I'll disclose. I went to St. Mary's College, California. Very good school. And I worked in services all these years, and I always looked at services through the lens of my level, which was an entry level staff as a as a peer counselor, or care coordinator, one, two, or residential services coordinator. And a lot of that had to do with me staying in that role because I was really afraid of leadership. And I think as a Black female, a lot of the times that is the issue that we hide behind. I want to stay close to the community. I want to be with the people. And in effect, it's true. It's true. I did enjoy it for a long time, but I was more afraid of disciplinary action to a staff that was more than likely a peer before. I was afraid of having to do calculations and stay on budget for our programming grants. I was afraid to write people up. I was afraid. It was fear. So me going through grad school and getting my MBA, and I was kind of like the bottom. I was a person worked in services. I keep it straight across the board. The way I speak is the way I speak. I really try my hardest to not code switch. I really, really try hard not to, because that's stating that what I am saying and how I'm speaking does not add value, and I am the value. The way I speak is the value. And so I didn't know how to find that balance, or more so how to leverage that. And I had a great former supervisor. He said, "That's a quality, Jamela, like you need to bring that up. Thank you. You know who you are." But within that, in me saying, you know what, I'm going to get my MBA, I'm going to, get these leadership roles, I began to notice that they weren't hitting that hard either. You know what I'm saying? Like they weren't popping that hard. They weren't, rewriting policy. They were the homies. They were the homie of the homie that got promoted, and they got promoted. And that's neither here nor there. But what I'm saying was I was allowing fear to restrict my career growth. So going through my MBA and being around certain people in my program, I was like, I'm not that impressed. I actually got a little bit more power than you because I can call the mayor's office about something. Not only that, at my level, I have the power of life and death. I have the power of saying someone is evicted or someone stays. And when I was able to walk off into that and say that I, this ain't nothing but a piece of paper. I have to work hard for this paper. I have to pay a lot of money for this paper, but it's a piece of paper because I'm the value. And so I graduated and I started getting promotions. That's why you all have not seen me. I was in school when I started this. I got promotions. I had a baby. It's been a lot of growth going on in a very short period of time. But when I was able to acknowledge my fear, I was able to see what was blocking me from taking it. And it was really education. It was really like understanding that numbers are another form of language. And that once you learn that number language, you are able to articulate in different rooms. So when I'm speaking to you all, I'm to an extent giving you a storytelling of my career or examples. But when I am in my professional role, when I'm asking for money on my, when I'm sitting on the board and I'm calling people asking for money, I'm speaking numerically. And numerically speaking sounds like in 1994, there was an estimated outcome that 30% of Black males are going to be incarcerated because 50% of the people in their zip code have a history of crack addiction, HIV, AIDS, and incarceration. So that data says that by strategically placing a ER or urgent care hospital in this zip code, we will be able to minimize the impact of domestic violence that leads to death. Just, I mean, something like that. But I'm speaking to you numerically. I'm not speaking that, people out here getting shot. People ain't going to school because so and so, their uncle went to jail and he was the one that was paying for all the bills, and the mama had to go prostitute out. But she went to jail, and y'all know, like, we need money over here. I said the same thing. I just said it in a different language. I spoke in a mathematical language. And that brings me back to my statistic and understanding my theory of the why Black and brown individuals are not getting these degrees. And one is fucking statistics. Statistics. I can't even say it. Statistics is a class that when you sit down, it's gonna slap you in the mouth. Slap. Epidemiology. Go say hi. Go say hi. See, and just look at this heifer backhand you. This mathematics, your head will be spinning if you do not come from a school system that teaches you math. I went to school in East Texas. I had not seen, I didn't even know what a Cambodian was until I was 22 years old. I didn't know what the Philippines was. I didn't know any of these things because I did not have the exposure because I grew up poor in the South. Trust me, all that baggage that I hadn't dealt with was why it took me so long to be this age of, how old am I? 37, to be 36 getting my MBA. It had always been offered to me. Even now, I got like a 50% scholarship. And it was just me, it was my own fear. So looking at this statistic that I'm going to say again, 80.7% of social workers are white women. 12% of social workers are female Latinos. 21.5% are Black female social workers. What's happening? To be a social worker, you have to have a BSW. To be a licensed LCSW, licensed clinical social worker, that means that you have to get your master's and then you have to take your exam and you have to pass. We need to go to school. I love y'all entry level staff. I'm always be right for you, but we getting some degrees in 2022, baby, because the DSM-5 is what a social worker, LCSW, uses to diagnose a person. A diagnosis can make or break a person's life. If you were diagnosed in elementary or special education, that's going to follow you for the rest of your life. Your records do not end when you lose the school system. They are always used for you or against you. And do you know the amount of Black and brown children that are being diagnosed with things that are really just culture? And because there are no Black or brown social workers or counselors in the school system that's given a different example or a different form of a diagnosis to what someone is experiencing, we are in effect working against ourselves. And we are working against ourselves if those of us who have chosen, that are Black or brown, to pursue a career or occupation in this industry, when we don't further our education. Someone else is speaking for us and on our behalf, and it is our responsibility to get educated. And you're like, I don't have time for that. I'm making money on Instagram. I'm making money doing nails. And that's all true, and you can still do that. But true power is policy. The impact of COVID and the amount of kids that have missed over 2 years 2 years, the ability to learn to read and write. Their white predecessors, I'm not even going to say white, their different class has now, it's now almost 4 years ahead of them. These are going to be the people who are from these higher income areas writing policy. And they are writing policy in neighborhoods they have nothing about, know nothing about, have not experienced. They are reading the data. They are reading that in the zip code 12345, that they are the highest utilizers of the ER. So that means that they are not either getting Medi-Cal, that they are not getting a primary care physician. So we're gonna put some bullshit, and I hate to say it, but we're gonna put some bullshit vans, primary care vans. I can guarantee you, in a max of 4 years, we're gonna start seeing primary care vans. You know how you see those HIV testing vans? Those are going to become the new primary care vans. Why? Because black and brown people didn't want to get vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated in California, you can't go into no hospital. Your name is off the donor list. I don't know what they're doing in Texas. They're saying it's federal law. They're not saying it's federal law. But if a person has not had if somebody ain't brought Cal OSHA out and there are no rules or policies and procedures protecting what they have said or working against what they said, they can say no to you. So that's what you're going to start seeing. You're going to start beginning to see medical students on these primary care vans that they use in rural health areas, or you'll see them a lot with HIV, you see them with mammograms, having people going to get checked out. You want to know a second to that? And I'm going to give you an example. In the state of California, when someone goes documented or undocumented, I mean social worker, social security number or not, they get 30 days of Medi-Cal automatically. And that is really for the hospitals to be reimbursed for a service delivery. Does that person know what they signed? Do they know what they're doing with their data? So that means these new primary care vehicles are going to be, excuse me, they're going to be the new way to get genetic information. One, you're not paying for your health care, the state is paying for it. So where are your rights at in that? Then number two, if you do have a diagnosis of something, who's going to follow up with your care? So let's say you're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes at the age of 14 years old, and there's that you ain't got no money to get no insulin. Your data has now been obtained genetically through that blood test to look at the correlation between diabetes in a child. And you can say, oh, that person is overweight, or they're living in a food desert. The mom is a low income worker, so they're drinking juice. But what if that's not the case? What if that's just not the case? They just developed type 2 diabetes because of an environment. Or it could be like, oh yeah, this public housing that they live in, this is known for having been built on top of a former Chevron gas dump site. So we can't let this information get out because we can be sued and then policy can change. So are you seeing, like, I'm going kind of deep into it because I've had these experiences before. But people that have had children that were school-age children in low-income areas are now experiencing, one, my child did not go to school and learn to read properly for 2 years, to write a paragraph, and on top of that, they are closing schools. I told y'all the storm is coming. So I have to always think I'm not a social worker, I'm more of a business mind of social services. So I had to think to myself, well, then who's writing policy? It's going to be the nonprofits writing policy. And if I just said to you that 80% of social workers are white females, then white females are going to be writing the policy because black and brown people do not have the credentials to write the policy. We can educate it. From here on out, I love y'all entry level. Y'all need to get entry level. You need to learn how to work at the ground so that you can build your way up. I'm 10 years deep. I just got my master's, but I've had leadership positions before. Y'all need to get it moving. The time is now. And to my Latinos, y'all political power is going through the roof. Get yourselves together as well. If you were in the home and you were the only person speaking Spanish, excuse me, you're the only person that is speaking English, and I'm going to say this, but and there's no disrespect, but speaking proper English, which means we can go from Hey, Lucinda, how you doing? ¿Cómo estás? Lucinda, how are you doing this afternoon? You see that? That small little thing. So I want us to use this time to do some research and start figuring out where you need to start at. Do you need to take a basic math class? You can learn it on YouTube. Do you need to look for a mentor? I'm your mentor on YouTube when I upload, when I upload. And we got to get it together because the time is now, and you're so needed. You're so needed. What I saw leaving, I worked in transitional housing. I've worked in mostly my career in housing and behavioral health. That's pretty much my zone. That's my lane. That's what I thoroughly enjoy. And the amount of youth that have just graduated from high school who were severely in the addiction of meth and who were chronically homeless. Ain't nobody gonna take care of us that's 30 and above if they all got a diagnosis. It's gonna be some artificial intelligence diagnosing you based on the algorithm of your behaviors. So as always, social workers, counselors, entry level staff, you are so needed. It is, we are in the land of milk and honey right now for our careers. So I want you to begin moving forward in your educational paths, and let's see what we're gonna have going on for ourselves next week. Bye bye.